Hi all. Well, today we're going to go on a bit of a bus tour just around Darwin. It's called the Hop On and Hop Off bus. I'll show you the brochure. I'll flip the camera around. And that's the Hop On, Hop Off bus. And then when I open it, it'll give you the map of where. So with the red, it shows you where the bus will travel around Darwin. So tag along and we'll have a look. Cheers.
You'll need this if you choose to alight from the bus and then wish to rejoin us again later. Your ticket is valid for 24 hours from the time of issue and should be clearly visible. Buses operate until various times of the day depending on season, so please check with our staff for the time of that last bus today. For now, however, just sit back and enjoy the ride. Please do not stand while the bus is moving for safety reasons. I know you'll understand.
She doesn't.
Keep a lookout for any low branches, especially after rainfall where they may be weighted down just a tad. Now we're about to drive down Mitchell Street. This is the main street in Darwin's Central Business District, or CBD. Coming up on the left is the Mitchell Centre Shopping Complex. Housing, as well as a range of shops, a variety of good restaurants and some popular local bars. Coming up on our stop for Crocosaurus, this is the place to stop. Just across the road on the right-hand side, as I said, Crocosaurus Cove, where the brave, or just plain stupid amongst you, can swim in a glass cage with the largest croc you've ever seen. Now, if you want to get to Crocosaurus Cove, if this interests you, then ask your driver for fast-track entry tickets, and we say goodbye to you right now. a warm welcome to those joining us or rejoining us here. As we pull away from the stop, please ensure you remain seated for safety reasons. Before our next stop, I'll tell you a little about Darwin. With a population of just over 120,000, Darwin is hardly large. In fact, the population of the whole Northern Territory is just over 230,000 and is spread out over 1.3 million square kilometres. Known as the gateway to Asia, Darwin is truly a multicultural city. It has one of the largest Aboriginal populations of any Australian city, as well as large Greek, Chinese, Italian, Vietnamese, Indonesian, Filipino and Timorese communities. These different cultures bring a vibrancy and diversity that is unexpected in such a small city and makes for a very exciting range of dining experiences. You're in for a treat here. We're now coming up to our next stop, Doctor's Gully. Located nearby is Aquascene Fish Feeding, which is around about a 5 to 10 minute walk from here. Due to the tidal nature of the fish feeding, check with the driver for times of the next fish feeding display. As we leave and drive along Mitchell Street, we're driving through the suburb of Larrakia. This suburb is named after the Larrakia, or saltwater people, who are the traditional Aboriginal owners of this land. As we continue down the hill, the area hidden away on the left is Doctor's Gully, named after Dr. Robert Peel, who was the medical officer attached to George Goyder's original survey team who mapped out and planned Darwin in 1869, although then it was known as Palmerston. It was here that Dr. Peel found our first natural water supply, and the original well is still named Peel's Well and is now a heritage listed site. It was also here during World War II that the Catalina flying boats of the 43 Squadron, or Black Cats as they were known, were based and carried out reconnaissance and rescue missions and also acted as bombers against the Japanese. Despite being flying boats, the Catalinas could carry up to 16 250-pound bombs, stay in the air for up to 30 hours non-stop, and could cover 4,000 kilometres without having to refuel. Remarkable aircraft for sure. Ahead of us is the site of the old Darwin Hospital. Closed in 1980, it suffered from quite an unlucky history. The original 89-bed hospital was opened for business on the 2nd of February 1942, and just 17 days later it was bombed by the Japanese. It was then placed under army control and remained so until June 1946. By the 1970s it was obvious that due to an increased population that a larger hospital would be required for the future. The decision whether to expand the old or build a brand new one was made in 1974 when the old Darwin Hospital was badly damaged during Cyclone Tracy. Today, Casuarina Hospital is known as Darwin Hospital, becoming fully operational on the 20th of May 1980. The unfortunate saga of the old Darwin Hospital was closed. Was it jinxed or what? Now we're entering one of Darwin's most elegant and exclusive areas, Cullen Bay. Cullen Bay is an engineering marvel. With very high tides, the reclamation project was a complex undertaking. 150,000 tonnes of rock was brought in from Mount Bundy Station, 140 kilometres south, to build the sea wall. 1 million cubic metres of sand was dredged from the harbour and pumped into the land project to build the residential islands and roads. Cullen Bay is today one of the most desired residential areas in the north of Australia. The permanent residents of Cullen Bay Marina Precinct enjoy a waterside lifestyle that is the envy of many. And why not? Incorporating Darwin's proud, unique history and heritage and magnificent climate, this really is a unique and special part of the world to live in. We're proud of Darwin, and we love to show it off to you. The downside of being in a tropical environment is that we're subject to severe weather. Cullen Bay Marina was designed with this in mind, so has been built to protect with locked waterways and high seawalls, and a huge 8-door lock that controls all vessels and water entering and exiting Cullen Bay. In fact, Cullen Bay itself is a registered cyclone haven to both small and medium-sized maritime vessels that may happen to be within range to take shelter here when a severe weather warning is issued. Very smart. We're now approaching our stop here. So if you're leaving for a look around Cullen Bay, please ensure you have both your belongings and your ticket with you. For those who just joined us, I hope you've enjoyed your time around Cullen Bay. Now, as we prepare to leave, please ensure that you are seated. Your safety is our top priority. As we return through Cullen Bay, I'd like to talk about our weather. Here we say it's either hot or hotter. Unlike the rest of Australia down south, we don't have 4 separate seasons. Instead, we have a dry season and a wet season. The official start of the dry season is the 1st of May until the 1st of October. In truth, Darwin temperatures can get quite chilly in the dry season, well, by our standards anyway. Sometimes as low as 13 degrees overnight. Don't laugh, that's freezing for us. At the end of September, the mercury starts rising as the wet season starts. It gets hot then, although surprisingly, the maximum temperature rarely goes much higher than 38 degrees. But that's not the cause of the heat alone. It's the humidity at over 95%. That's hot, even for us. As we prepare to leave, please ensure you remain seated at all times for safety reasons. On the 9th of September 1839, HMS Beagle, of Charles Darwin fame, sailed into our beautiful harbour during its surveying of the area. They named the harbour Port Darwin in honour of their former shipmate Charles Darwin, who had sailed with them around the Galapagos Islands 3 years previously. The settlement here became the town of Palmerston, named after Lord Palmerston, who was then a politician but soon went on to become the Prime Minister of England. Unknown to the crew of HMS Beagle at the time, Charles Darwin was to later publish a book about his voyage on the ship and become one of the most famous men in scientific history, as his trip on HMS Beagle had led him to a breakthrough and the discovery and evolution in his publication Origin of Species. Lord Palmerston was all but forgotten here by 1911, whereas Darwin was the name on everybody's lips, so the town was renamed Darwin. I'd just like to take this opportunity to say, officially, welcome to Darwin. Soon on the left we'll see the Miley Point Heritage Precinct, which consists of just 4 houses. What makes this precinct special is that these are the last 4 houses of their kind. They're museum pieces still in their original location, as they are the only examples of pre-World War II Darwin architecture. The houses were built in the early 1930s and remarkably, they survived both the bombing of Darwin and Cyclone Tracy. We're now heading downhill towards one of this area's most famous markets, the Mindle Beach Markets, held alongside the beach every Thursday and Sunday from 4:30 p.m. till 9:30 p.m. during the dry season. If you have a chance to visit the market, you'll also experience a sensory overload of flavours and colours. There's stalls operated by local artists, many of whom can be found creating the artworks they sell. Alongside are some of the tastiest food stalls offering a wide variety. The hardest part is choosing which one to try first. Yum! To our left we have the casino, and very shortly we'll arrive at our stop for those of you who want to go and try your luck. Inside you'll find over 1,400 electronic gaming machines known locally as pokies, as well as the more traditional baccarat, Caribbean stud poker, roulette, blackjack and many other games. So the question is, are you feeling lucky? Well, are you? If not, then this is also your stop for the Mindle Beach Markets and the Botanical Gardens. And a warm welcome aboard to those joining us here at the casino stop. I hope Lady Luck was with you, and if she still is, please ensure she also remains seated at all times for safety reasons. I know you'll understand. Now, as we continue, we can see on the right-hand side the Waratah Sports Oval. This sporting ground is shared by the local Aussie rules football team and local cricket teams, not at the same time, of course. To our right is the George Brown Botanical Gardens. Now, George Brown didn't start the gardens and wasn't even born when the gardens were begun. The gardens were first made here in 1886 and were built and maintained largely by local prisoners. During the Second World War, the gardens were home to anti-aircraft guns, and so of course they were heavily bombed by the Japanese. Then in December 1974, the gardens were completely devastated by Cyclone Tracy. George Brown only then came into the picture. He became the curator and remained so until once again we saw pristine botanical gardens. They were eventually handed over to the Parks and Wildlife Commission. Not only were the botanical gardens named after George Brown, but he was also elected as Mayor of Darwin City. That's how good the botanical gardens are here. George Brown remained Mayor of Darwin until his death in January 2002. We owe a lot to him. To our left is the Darwin Middle School, which concentrates on students from years 7, 8 and 9. However, on this site, prior to the school, was the Vestes Brothers Meatworks. With a string of meatwork companies and cattle stations in Britain and Argentina, the Darwin Vestes Meatworks was a massive expansion costing £1 million in 1917. A lot of money, the equivalent of around $250 million today. Unfortunately for the Vestes brothers, the Great War going on in Europe meant a labour shortage, as most of the labour market was away fighting the war. A result of this was the wages demanded by workers soared, and soon the Vestes payroll was so big, the meatworks was no longer viable. It closed its doors in 1919. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls, we're now approaching our next stop, the Museum and Art Gallery of the Northern Territory. The museum was first opened in 1981 and consists of 5 major permanent galleries: a touring gallery, education facilities, school groups, a theatre, the museum shop, and if you're feeling a little peckish, it has a great cafe. If you're leaving us here, please keep your ticket in a safe place, and we look forward to welcoming you back a little bit later.
Been here already. Only 4 houses left before the bombing. Yeah.
A warm welcome to passengers joining or rejoining us here. Please ensure you remain seated throughout the journey for safety reasons. The suburb of Fanny Bay takes its name from the adjacent bay, which is believed to have been named by the surveyors of George Goyder's expedition in 1868. They surveyed the whole of the area that is now Darwin, and it's believed they named this bay Fanny Bay after Fanny Carandini, who was a popular opera singer of the time. Today, Fanny Bay is best known for its jail and its racecourse, which is home to the annual Darwin Cup Carnival. The carnival runs over 6 weeks, and the Darwin Cup itself is held on the first Monday of August each year. The Darwin Cup Carnival attracts more than 20,000 horse race enthusiasts, and the numbers increase each year. Coming into view on our left is the Darwin Sailing Club, and a little further along is the Trailer Boat Club. These clubs are both family orientated, great places to pop in for a meal or a drink. There's also some great places to view that famous Darwin sunset. It's magnificent. Straight ahead, you'll probably notice that this stretch of road is both very long and very straight. We're in Ross Smith Avenue, and Ross Smith was a famous pilot. So we are now driving along what was once the Parat Airfield. The airfield was established here in the suburb of Parat as the Australian terminal for the 1919 England to Australia air race. The air race was quite clever. It was actually a way of returning Australian Flying Corps pilots and crews to Australia after the cessation of hostilities in World War I. The pilots were of course required to fly their aircraft home, and the incentive to do so was a £10,000 prize, an absolute king's ransom at the time. The prize was offered under strict conditions. The winners had to achieve something never before achieved, and had to reach Australia from London in less than 30 days, and it had to be completed before the end of 1919. Well, Ross and his brother Keith Smith landed here and claimed the prize, having accomplished the first ever flight from Europe to Australia, distance of 18,500 kilometres in 27 days and 20 hours. Incredible for its time. The Japanese bombed the aerodrome in a number of raids on Darwin during 1942, resulting in extensive damage, and as a result, the civilian airport at Parat was closed at the end of 1946, giving us this long, straight road. Please ensure you remain seated at all times whilst the vehicle is in motion. As we continue along Ross Smith Avenue, to our left you'll notice some new stylishly designed townhouses. These are ultra-green, eco-friendly townhouses and have been designed to minimise electricity usage, even controlling airflow through directional louvers to save the need for air conditioning. Also, the style of home reflects a return to the old-style Darwin architecture again. As we approach the traffic lights ahead across the Stewart Highway, it may interest you to know that the Stewart Highway is the main road leading out of Darwin. In fact, this little road leads quite a long way out of Darwin, as the highway continues from here to Port Augusta in South Australia, some 2,800 kilometres away. Don't worry, we're not going that far on this tour. And as we cross the highway we know so much about, we're going to enter Walna, which is a suburb named after the Walna Aboriginal tribal group which occupied the area east of Darwin when the town was founded in 1869. Oh, I love this next part. Now, no tour is complete without the mention of beer. So on the left you may see Bishop Street, followed by Brewery Place. This was the original home of Carlton United's Darwin Brewery. The brewery opened in 1957 and made the iconic Darwin Stubby. The original Darwin Stubby was a mere 2.25 litres in size. Although the stubby has had many changes in size over the years, it continues to be a much sought after commodity. Now, the brewery closed in the late 1980s, taking the iconic Darwin stubby to Queensland, which doesn't seem right. We're now driving along Tiger Brennan Drive, and due to some major upgrades over the last few years, this is now the road of preference for any tours driving out to Litchfield National Park or Kakadu National Park. Harold Tiger Brennan himself was quite a colourful character. Having been a politician in his early days, he later became the mayor of Darwin and was the mayor when Cyclone Tracy hit. Famed for his love of a stiff drink, it's a widely believed tale that he remained sleeping through the whole Cyclone Tracy episode, waking up on Christmas morning surprised to find his roof had disappeared. To the right is the Chinese cemetery. This old cemetery was an exclusively Chinese cemetery. Although no longer used, it's administered by the Changhua Society and is a reminder of the strong connections Chinese people had with the development of the north of Australia. The strongest Chinese connection was with the gold rush in Pine Creek back in the early 1870s, when most of the prospectors were Chinese. Coming up on the left is a suburb called Tipperary Waters. This is one of Darwin's newest and more exclusive suburbs. Hidden from view behind the main buildings is a small marina where there are scattered very nice places to eat. We're now driving along Francis Bay Drive, and although there's no official record of where the name of the road comes from, it's believed that George Goyder, the original Surveyor General, named it after his wife Frances, the mother of his 9 children. Now, had he named streets after them, Darwin would be much larger. The area on the left is known locally as the Duck Pond, where fishing and pearling boats are moored. Ladies have said that the pristine waters of the South Sea provide the best pearls in the world. service. After all, nothing beats a fresh local barramundi or mud crab. It's the food we're world famous for. Yum.
Mud.
The fishing company to our left, formerly Perkins Shipping, looks after the shipping of the goods to many remote areas and islands, including Dili in Timor. You may notice the black rubber wall running along the bottom of the wire fence. This is in place to stop the dreaded cane toads from entering the yard and boarding the boats. This works as long as they remember to shut the gate as well. To the left is another piece of Darwin's military history, the naval oil storage tanks. In 1936, the tanks were constructed here to hold marine sand and heavy black furnace oil for the Navy fleet. During the bombing of Darwin, these tanks were targeted, but they survived, although 5 tanks received considerable damage. If you look at the base of the tanks, you can see Japanese bullet holes in the concrete. Other than these holes in the concrete, the tanks have been fully repaired and today are used for the Navy's supply of diesel. Yet despite this, the tanks are still referred to as the oil storage tanks. As we continue to drive, we're now heading out to Stokes Hill Wharf. On the wharf itself, there are a number of fantastic eateries serving lunch and dinner, and before you board a harbour cruise, you might want to visit the Bombing of Darwin and Royal Flying Doctor Service Museum. The museum tells 2 iconic Northern Territory stories in one location. In fact, life-size holograms tell the stories as you experience virtual reality like never before. Also, you can climb inside a real Flying Doctor Service medical aircraft. If you want to experience this, then tickets for entry can be purchased from your driver. To the far left, you'll see large white fuel tanks, which form part of a large independent petroleum import and distribution terminal called Vopak. Just the other side of the tanks can be found the terminal for the GAN, one of the great trains of Australia, taking one of the great train journeys of the world. If we have any passengers on the bus today that are lucky enough to have come here on that fantastic train journey, I'd just like to offer a special welcome to you. A little further ahead in the distance you'll see East Arm Port, which was opened in 2000 and being able to accept vessels up to 80,000 tonnes. It immediately became a vital wharf for mining, bulk liquid and live export shipping. Behind East Arm Point is Bladen Point, where the Impex liquid gas project is situated. This 5-year, $34 billion project has changed the landscape and some say the economy of Darwin. Gas is piped in from fields up to 890 kilometres away and has cooled down to minus 161 degrees, which is where the natural gas becomes liquid in those big white tanks or eskies. As we get closer to our next stop, I'd like to tell you about Stokes Hill Wharf, which has a long history dating back to the early 1800s. Having been used both for the arrival of European settlers, then by ships and flying boats during the war, when it became a target and was hit with the full force of Japanese bombings. Lastly, on a lighter note, if you think you recognise this area, well, it's from the movie Australia, which was filmed right here, although the cattle didn't run on this wharf. That was a wharf double in Queensland. We'll soon be arriving at Stokes Hill Wharf. If you wish to enter the Bombing of Darwin Museum, tickets can be purchased from our driver.
It's big. you want it? You can go in the front. Yeah, I might sit next to you. Yeah, I didn't realise that was here.
Welcome aboard to those joining or rejoining us here. Please be seated as we head back to the waterfront precinct. As we leave this historic part of Darwin, we can see over to the left a very impressive view of the growing cosmopolitan and very tropical city. And what a great view, and what a great city it is. As modern as Darwin becomes, it seems to never lose touch with its past. And today Darwin is still known as the best place to buy works of art, especially Aboriginal art, and some great pieces can be found in the galleries and even in some of the markets. And sometimes you can even watch the artist at work and buy works as soon as they're dry. Approaching the modern, vibrant and increasingly popular waterfront precinct ahead of us, whilst on our left is the award-winning Darwin Convention Centre, and directly in front of that, the Darwin Wave Pool. A peculiarity of geography is that Darwin doesn't usually have waves unless there is a cyclone, of course, so the wave pool is very popular with local children. It's also free of some of those natural nasties you may not wish to swim with in the ocean. We're now stopping here for the waterfront precinct and also our stop for the oil storage tunnels. If you're leaving us here, please keep your ticket in a safe place, and we look forward to meeting you again later in the day. us here. Please ensure you remain seated throughout the journey for safety reasons. To the right are located the entrance to the World War II oil storage tunnels. The military importance of oil during the war was such that apart from the above-ground oil tanks that were subjected to frequent Japanese bombing raids, construction of 8 tunnels was approved to provide underground oil storage facilities that would be safe from bombing. These tunnels were to be built in secret, meaning manpower was mainly non-mechanical, meaning the builders could only use picks and shovels to dig them with. Because of this, only 5 of the 8 commissioned tunnels were completed before the war ended, and the tunnels were never used to store oil. Despite this, for a small charge, you can take a tour of the tunnels if you'd like to. As we head into the CBD, the Central Business District, we'd like to make mention of the industries we have here in Darwin. Firstly, whilst we're here, there is a cruise ship industry. Cruise ship arrivals in Darwin are growing in number every year, and of course we in tourism welcome this growing industry. Cruise ship travel is becoming ever more popular, and so now, more than just valuable to many local businesses, to some they are absolutely vital. Not all cruise ship arrivals here are scheduled. We also receive cruise ships taking shelter from cyclones. You'll see ahead an overpass. Now, this overpass is a handy walkway for those who come from Smith Street to the increasingly popular waterfront precinct. For tourists, it also acts as a great lookout spot, and you'll often see people admiring the views from up there. If you see someone, why not give them a wave? Incidentally, the Aussie wave or bush salute is when a person waves their hand in front of their face to wave off flies. This replaced the older and somewhat unfashionable bush hats with corks hanging from strings. Today, the bush hat is hardly seen except in souvenir shops, and Aussie wave is no different from anyone else waving, which for people living in the bush is largely down to the introduction of insect repellents. Looking down to our left, you'll see an old stairway. From as early as the 1880s, visitors to Darwin would arrive by ship, which could take weeks or months, and after this journey and disembarking at the port of Darwin, they would have to climb this walkway to town, which became known as Chinaman's Walk, named both for the Chinese stonemasons who constructed the pathway and steps, and also in recognition of the many Chinese gold prospectors who arrived here from China. In fact, until 1911, there were more Chinese than Europeans resident in the top end of the Northern Territory. The pathway began at the entrance to the railway yards with the steps leading up to Cavendish Street and finishing at the Terminus Hotel, which was appropriate. There you'd find a great banyan tree, dubbed the Tree of Knowledge. The shade from this tree provided drinkers with a cool place to sit and debate the issues of the day, a habit that endures to this very day. left, you'll notice a big white building, which is Parliament House. It's known to locals, however, as the wedding cake, because according to the locals, it is white, square, and full of fruits and nuts mixed together with alcohol. Parliament House has been located here since 1994. To the right, not to be mistaken, is the Administrator's House, or Government House, with its perfectly manicured lawns. Built in 1871, Government House is the oldest European-style building in the Northern Territory and doesn't suffer from wedding cake jokes. To the left is the Supreme Court, which was open for business here in 1991. I'm told a visit here can be very expensive, so best to avoid it during your visit. The two buildings on the bottom left are the old courthouse and the police station, both built in 1884. These two buildings were the Northern Territory's original courthouse, police station and prison cell blocks. During the bombing of Darwin, they were used as naval headquarters before being refurbished to their present condition. And so we turn into Smith Street and head towards our terminal. To the right is the Christchurch Cathedral, which dates back to the early 1900s. Coming up on the left is the old Palmerston Town Hall ruins. The Palmerston Town Hall was opened in 1883 for use by the Palmerston District Council, which of course later became Darwin Town Council and remained in use until 1937, when it became a library. The bombing of Darwin actually totally missed the building, and it stood proud until Cyclone Tracy hit in 1974. Despite the dreadful damage caused, it was decided to retain the ruins as a historical monument. It really is a monument to Cyclone Tracy. We're now approaching our terminal and we'll be finishing this particular tour here. If you're leaving us here, please ensure you have all of your belongings with you. That's very important, and also your Explorer ticket, which you'll need if you want to rejoin a bus later in the day.
Well, yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video of the bus tour. Yeah, so please subscribe and hit the thumbs up, and yeah, I'll see you all tomorrow. Cheers.